Hello, welcome to Practical Piano. My name is Tia. It's November 21st, and I have about 35 minutes to practice. In this series, I'm just recording every time that I practice so that you get an idea of what progress can look like over time, and what the struggles of day-to-day piano practice can be. And what happens is I usually do a little warm-up. I've recently found out that warming up is actually important. I used to not think it was important, but it is. So I recommend that you warm up. After the warm-up, I practice a song. And these are very imperfect videos. So I'm going to be playing the music, but you're going to hear a ton of mistakes. The purpose of these particular videos is not perfection. It's not performance. It's transparency, so that you can see what everybody struggles with. I took my level 8 RCM exam a couple of years ago. I've been teaching for about 10 years and I've been playing for 20. And you're going to see me struggle with some things. Now, for a lot of beginners, it's gonna look like, wow, you play amazing. Thank you. I do, compared to where other people are at, and I play very poorly compared to where other people are at. Because piano is a never-ending discipline. You'll never get to a point in piano where you're like, I learned everything, I can stop. Because there's no end to what you can learn in music. Which is wonderful on one hand. On the other hand, it can get discouraging and you may feel aimless sometimes. So in that case, set small, reachable goals. Anyways, as I'm playing, when I make mistakes and it reminds me of something that could help you, I stop and give you advice about how to practice a little different, a little better, so that you can not make the mistakes that I make. And you can learn the habits that I use to practice better, that lots of pianists use to practice better. And that is what we're doing. So, we're gonna start with a warm-up. I'm gonna play F major scale. Am I gonna play the major scales? No. So I need to practice arpeggios, and that's what I'm going to do for my warm-up. So we're gonna do F major arpeggios with inversions. Ooh. We're gonna try that again. I started too fast and I could tell the first time that I played, and then when I went to that first inversion, it started falling apart there, just like you saw. A lot of the time, if you're making a lot of mistakes, it's because you started off too fast. And this is a repetitive tip you're gonna hear from every pianist who has ever played. When you have a lot of mistakes, slow down. Because when you slow down, you make fewer mistakes. The military has a quote. I first heard it from the Jocko Willink podcast. Slow is steady, and steady is fast. I've also heard it quoted from the man who wrote Psychology of Money. He said, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Either way, it's a military quote, and the idea is if you're in a platoon and you're moving through enemy territory, if you make a wrong move, somebody dies. In piano, if you make a wrong move, nobody dies. But let's use the metaphor anyways. So they go slowly and make sure things are right. Nobody dies. Steady is fast. So being careful and precise eliminates the errors, so you reach the goal. But what happens if you really speed through and you make a ton of errors along the way? Well, in war you die, or the people that you've become friends and brothers with, they die. In piano, what happens is you train your brain to play the thing the wrong way. And when you train your brain to play whatever it is you're playing the wrong way, you keep regurgitating the same mistakes. And you may as well, it would do you more good to not practice rather than to put this solid track in your brain of the wrong way to do it. So it's actually better, and I'm not saying don't practice because you're gonna make mistakes. I'm not saying that, that's counterproductive. You will usually make mistakes, which is why we practice. But it is better to go slow and be very accurate because you're going to tell your brain what the right way is to do something over and over and over and over again. And the more that you do it the right way, the more your brain remembers it the right way, and then you end up making progress. Whereas if you make a lot of mistakes, you have to do extra practice to take it backwards from where you got it with all the mistakes. So it's better to get it right from the start. For that, we do slow practice, and you're gonna hear that from every pianist ever born. Although we're not born knowing how to play piano. Even Mozart wasn't born knowing how to play piano. Mozart learned how to play piano from his father, Leopold Mozart, because his father had taught piano. And then he gets Wolfgang Amadeus, and he teaches Wolfgang, and it turns out he was one of the most brilliant pianists ever. But he'd probably been playing since he was, since he could press keys. But he wasn't born playing piano. All right, F major, arpeggio, slowly. Let's do F sharp minor arpeggio, slowly. Now, I played a little bit in my piano lesson earlier because I'm going to a piano teacher for instruction as well. And so I'm already kind of warmed up. That feels good. I'm going to practice. And I want to work on Sir Duke because we've hardly touched it, so it needs some work. Too low. Let's try again. This is this B, this is this B. Do that again. This was pretty good until that last bit. Bum. let's do that again. Chords are very difficult for me. Passages where you play 3 or 4 notes in one hand, they're difficult to keep track of. So, we do it again. There we go. And it's good to know your weaknesses. It's good to know your strengths. And because what that does is you'll know what you need to focus more energy into and what you can brush over for now because you're already pretty good at that. So it would almost be a waste of energy to focus on the thing you're good at when you have parts that you really need to improve on because they're not naturally easy to you. And people have different weaknesses and different strengths, and that's okay. And the trick is to be capitalizing on your strengths and working on your weaknesses. And again. Whoops. That one was good. Let's do it again. We'll move on. That was pretty good. There we go. We'll work on that area again. Whoops. Actually, that was correct. There we go. It's good to be watching out, even if you're not sure whether you hit the right thing. If you know you hit the wrong thing, of course fix that. But sometimes we're just not sure. And sometimes you're not sure but you played the right thing. Sometimes you're not sure but you played the wrong thing. Either way, if you're not sure, it's always good to double check. It's better to double check than just like letting it go. Because if you let too much go, if you neglect too much, you fail to make the same kind of progress you would if you were paying attention and being very careful and accurate. Whoops. There we go. So what I did there is I got to this part, whoops, and I wasn't sure what came next, so I double checked everything, and when I was sure, then I moved on. And it's better to pause and get it right than to rush through but make the mistake. It's always better, because it's easier to fix hesitations than it is to fix doing the wrong thing. Now I'm going to move on. That was pretty good. Whoops. Okay, it's hard for me to do this section. Bum ba dun da dun dun da. That's wrong. Bum ba da dum ba dum ba ba da da ba ba da ba da da ba. No, no. La na 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 no da 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 da. That's not how that goes. Yep, that is not how that goes. So this is very frustrating. Okay, let's try again. Yep. Yeah, okay. That's okay. Now I know how it sounds. Ba da ba da da. Ba da ba da ba da. Ba da ba da da ba da da. Yeah, there it is. There it is. My teacher, she specializes in jazz, and so she helped me get the sound for this earlier. So it sounds much, much better. The first video that you heard me play Sir Duke is an absolute train wreck on the rhythm in this area, because I had no idea how to do it, because it looks very, very confusing. But it's really not as confusing as it looks, and often that's the case with rhythms. Now I want to talk about something that reminded me of something. So I'm answering questions on Quora, and there are a lot of people who have put time into piano and effort, and their parents have invested in them for a long time, and they don't want to do it anymore, and they feel terrible about that because they appreciate what the parents did for them. And I resonate with that. When I was a teenager, I took 3 years off, and then my mom told me to start doing piano again because I was wasting my time. I'm a good kid, so I did. I think especially if you've been playing piano since you were young, this may apply to you even if you haven't been. If you've started piano when you're an adult and now you're getting bored and you're like, why am I even doing this? This will apply to you too. But it'll especially apply if you've been doing it since you were a little kid and now you're a teenager and you're like, I don't want to do this, actually. I never wanted to do this in the first place. I've been doing it because my parents made me, and I'm tired of it, and I don't know why I'm doing this. That's where you get as a teenager, because you're starting to individuate and become your own person, and your parents have required things of you, as they should, because that's what parents do who care for their children. They invest in their children and in their futures. And so the more skills your parents can give you, the better for your future. So they're investing into you as a human because they want you to be strong and skilled and healthy when you're an adult, if your parents have invested in you. Some of them don't. So, I've been answering questions, and I've gotten this 2 or 3 times where there's a person, they've been doing it because their parents made them, and they feel terrible throwing it away, but they just don't want to do it anymore. And so here's the advice that I would have given myself when I was going to quit piano, because I wish I had stayed in piano those 3 years. It puts a little dent in your progress when you stop for a long time like that. First of all, have you been playing the same genre for an awfully long time? Most people who enter piano either enter through, well, actually there's really only 3 ways you enter piano. You go through classical, you go through jazz, or you go through modern pop culture music. We tend to stay in that genre because we are already trained in it, so it's easy to stay in it. I was trained classically, and I really have no interest in modern pop music. I like old stuff. So I was trained up in classical music, which probably affected my taste. And I really like jazz music. So something that I do for myself now is, I know there's a person who teaches piano and she specializes in jazz type music. So what I do for myself is I'm going to somebody who specializes in jazz music. I've picked a jazzy song for my January recital, and I've picked a jazzy version of a Christmas song because I enjoy jazz. There's one advice I would give you if you're a teenager or you've been playing for a long time and you're not a teenager, but you don't really want to throw away everything that's been invested into you, but you're also like really sick of piano. Number 1, change genres. Number 2, if you don't completely change genres, choose a few songs that you have always loved and find the music for them and learn to play them. That is Sir Duke. I've been listening to since I was like 10 or something. I don't know when I started listening to Sir Duke, but I heard it at some point in my life and I was like, that song, I love that song so much. So I've been listening to it for over 10 years and I love it to bits. So I'm finally learning it. Rondo alla Turca by Mozart. Mom played Mozart for us when we were kids, and I have so many of his melody lines running through my head at weird times of day, and Rondo alla Turca is one of my favorite songs. And so this year I'm investing in myself. I'm learning Rondo alla Turca. For a while, I liked the song Yellow by Coldplay. And after a while, I started playing it. Then it turned out I didn't like it so much, so I set it away. I love Frank Sinatra. I got myself a Frank Sinatra book. I liked Scott Joplin's Rags. I got an easy Scott Joplin book. And these are things that I did for myself when I became an adult, and I was like, well, piano's gonna be my thing. If I'm going to play songs in piano, I'm going to play songs that I like. This is especially applicable for you as a teenager because you're becoming your own person now. And it's time for you to take stock of the things that you've encountered which you like and the things you've encountered which you don't like, and set the don't likes aside. Pull the like things in and stick with them for a while. Incorporate them into who you are. It's okay to have preferences. It's part of what makes you yourself. You also want to determine, what is piano going to be for you? Do you want to pursue teaching? Do you want to perform? Do you want it as a hobby? Will you want it as a discipline? Do you want to find some other part of the music industry that you can perform in? Do you want to write music? Do you want to record music? Do you want to play music on YouTube? What do you want out of piano as you enter your adulthood? Because as a teenager, you're almost an adult. You're almost fully developed. The last part is determining who you are. And that's vital. If you go through your teenagehood and you can't figure out who you are, you don't spend the time to feel yourself out and think about that and what you want for your future. Not just what your parents want, not what your teachers want, but what you want. When you see yourself stepping out as an adult into the world, what kind of work are you going to want to do? And start setting up your mind, your perspectives for the kind of work you eventually want to do. Where do you want to live? What's that going to require? I keep seeing videos of these girls who went to university. They come out of the university, they expect that they can get the job that they trained for in university and then live alone in an apartment or a house even with a brand new car and go to Starbucks and get their manicures and get their hair dyed. And they expect that they'll be able to do that on their wage. They haven't looked at the real world and their expectations and figured out, who do I need to become to meet my needs and wants with the state of the world as it exists today. That's a lot to think about if you're a teenager. And just pick one or two things to focus on. Right now we'll focus on piano. So we're figuring out who you are in piano. Do you want it as a hobby? How much time will you dedicate to it? And are you going to prioritize it over your games, over your TV, over reading, over entertainment, over hanging out with friends? Or is it going to be like the last thing on your list? How important is it to you? Music has a lot of really beneficial properties for self-development, for your discipline, for your brain development, for your hand development, for your body. Classical music in particular feels like it realigns your brain, which is epic, especially stuff like Mozart. Beethoven, not so much. He's kind of frenetic, he's wild. But stuff like Mozart, Bach, very orderly, very nice. That kind of music helps your brain grow and helps your synapses fire well. I get a lot of pleasure out of playing Sir Duke, out of listening to it. Do you want to invest that kind of care into yourself? Because music can be self-care. It does so much good for you. And if you're going to invest that much into yourself, how much are you going to do it? Are you going to do half an hour a day? Are you going to do an hour a day? And you have to determine for yourself why you play music. That's why I'm saying figure out where it belongs in your life. If you feel bored, that's going to be one of two things. Either you're actually bored and you need to change genre, songs, teachers, the time of day you practice, or you need to find your purpose, which is what we've been talking about, find your purpose. Or you have too many other dopaminergic, addictive activities going on. So recently, I was spending too much time on X. I have an X account. It used to be Twitter. And I would sit down to edit videos, and I was bored to death. And I could not focus. I tried to put on my focus music and edit my videos, and it was like, ugh, no. And I realized after a while of thinking about why is it so hard to edit right now, I realized I had been spending too much time on X. And now, social media, scrolling type of media, is very addictive. It's very dopaminergic. You do something and your brain rewards you for it right away. There are a number of addictions that are very dopaminergic that if you're participating in, you should probably stop. Because what happens is you have these high hit activities that require very little effort, and then you have something like editing videos or practicing piano, which is very high effort and very little reward. You get the reward over time. It's not blasts of reward. And it's a lot of effort to get the reward. So your brain would rather do something highly addictive, little bit of work, lots of reward, rather than something that requires a lot of effort and gives you moderate reward, reasonable reward. So if you're finding you're bored in piano, cut out anything addictive from your life and find your purpose. Where does piano fit for you? You don't have to be doing it because your parents want you to. But it isn't good to throw away the investment that you've made into yourself and the investment that your parents made into yourself. So rather than throw it away, take maybe a month and instead of practicing, write down your vision for your future. So if you practice half an hour, set a timer for half an hour, sit down with a piece of paper or a document in your computer and write what you want for your future and who you want to become and where piano fits in there. And that will probably help you a lot. Thank you for joining me for this practice session. I hope you have found a lot of usefulness out of it. I hope you find your purpose with piano. And I hope that you figure out what's discouraging you and how to motivate yourself better. If you like the video, like it. If you know anyone who would also enjoy it, please share. Or anyone who's also feeling aimless, please share. If you have any feedback, leave it in the comments. And if you would like more, subscribe. Bye.